Live. Good morning, everybody. We are here on Practical Inspiration Show, and today I have a very special guest. His name is Andrew Barnes, and he's a world-renowned teacher and healer. And let me see, you have so many titles, Andrew, so I will just read what I wrote. Andrew Barnes, internationally acclaimed tantric sex, relationship, and orgasm coach, sexologist, speaker, master body worker, and author of 2 books, Heart of the Flower and Relationship Tantra. There is a special method that you developed called Tantric Body De-armoring, which we will going to talk about. And over the last several years, he has been running courses worldwide. And we're very proud and honored to have you because you're coming to Israel soon, right? And You're going to have some courses and workshops here that you're going to run. I want people to see you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to coming back to Israel.
Yeah. Is that your what? How many times?
I've been to Israel 4 or 5 times, I think.
Wow. And I heard that you love Israel.
Yeah, I have a lot of fun when I'm in Israel.
So
they have Israelis, I think, have a similar sense of humor to Australians.
Yeah.
Fortunately, someone gets my jokes.
So I want to say a few opening words for the show and about me for the people who don't know me. The Practical Inspiration Show, my name is Orly Bar-Kima, and I've started this show a year ago with a vision to bring the greatest masters, mentors, healers, leaders in the spiritual realm into this live show to make to enable people from Israel and from all over the world to be in direct contact with those mentors, ask them questions through me, through the show, and really to bring the vision and the message of freedom, of love, of unity, because there are mentors and there are methods all over the place. And we are all talking about one thing, of unity, of freedom, of love, of peace. And I want to show it in this show so everybody could connect to that and bring it on with practical tools and tips into their life. So, Andrew, let's start with you. You know, there are many, many, many methods in the world. There are many types of healing in the world. Why sex?
Just before we get started onto that, I think we need to do a little bit of foreplay before we go into sex.
Okay.
Thank you for such a beautiful introduction. That was very nice to hear. However, I do want to clarify just a couple of things about myself, or actually more so what I'm not rather than what I am. So, you know, we all have these bios that all sound great and we pay people to write them for us and everything, and we come up with these great catchphrases and things. But what's really important for people to understand about me is that I don't actually consider myself to be a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I don't consider myself to be a therapist or a healer or anything like that. Really, what I consider myself to be is very simply someone that's there to share my experience, my own life experience, and what I've learned along the way, and to provide people with support about certain topics that I have just been exploring for many years in my life. One of the things that I'm very passionate about supporting people to do, not just in their sexual lives, but in all areas of their lives, is developing new ways of relating with themselves and with each other, and deconstructing what I call old power over dynamics, and developing new types of power relationships where we don't need to give our power away to other people, regardless of what position or role we're put into. Very often, everywhere I go around the world, people have been conditioned for a very long time in early childhood to either go into an over sense of responsibility if you're a teacher, for example, and a subordinate kind of position if you're a student, and to give your power away. So what I'm very passionate about doing is supporting people to reconnect with their sovereign sense of self and develop their intuitive sense of knowing that is far more powerful than just blindly trusting other people that are in certain positions in our culture.
Well, you know, there used to be, I don't know, in the 60s, in the 70s, the period that the spiritual seekers would go and look for gurus in India, in Tibet, in all kinds of places, like somebody, what you're referring to, somebody that should tell me what I should do because I don't know. Right. And I think that in the last few years, maybe a decade, all the mentors in the world and most of the spiritual teachings in the world tell you that you have the power, that the power is within you, and you don't have to go to any outside guru or look for any outside assistance, so you can heal yourself.
Yeah, so what you're mentioning about times past, I think, was a very important part of our evolution. There was a lot of density in culture, and we needed these amazing beings to support us to break through that density. But there's a quickening happening around the world, and there's a massive amount of information that's available to everybody. And information is power at a level of consciousness anyway. And so, yeah, I believe it's time for us to move on from these old types of dynamics where we're needing to seek others to find our answers, where we need to seek others to support us to find the answers from within, where we create these new types of relationships that even if we are around someone that has more information or more power or more energy than us, that we still maintain a sense of sovereignty. This is something that I believe if we want to evolve to the next level of consciousness as a species, we need to let go of these antiquated power over dynamics and develop new forms of relationship where we're not giving our power away.
And you also mean it within the couple, within the men and female, I don't know, married people or couples.
In our social relationships.
And not only in intimate relationship.
Definitely.
Anything that goes to, if you go to a doctor, you shouldn't give him his power, or a lawyer, you should be in your own self-control.
Definitely, they have a lot of information about a topic that we may only have a little bit about. What I suggest we do is we educate ourselves about those topics as well. We get second opinions, we get third opinions. If our intuition is not giving us a full yes, then we need to keep on educating ourselves. And usually there's a reason for all of the life experiences that we're having. And it's only through our exploration of those life experiences at a deeper level that the true reason for those experiences happening in the first place can emerge. So when we're staying very superficial, stuck in old antiquated power over dynamics and going through the experience that way, it doesn't create this magical vibration where the underlying messages for us that are usually there to benefit us, not just in that experience, but in our whole life experience. And that's the pieces of gold that I believe if we can learn how to do those things, then we become far more self-empowered. And this is the way that people can learn how to generate a power from within, rather than needing to use external control, manipulation, or avoidance strategies with people, places, and things. This is what most people are doing to try and gain power. None of us were probably taught at school how to develop this internal power from within that all of the great spiritual teachers have talked about. There are very simple ways of being able to do that, and the beginnings of that is realizing that the power is within us and that we need to renegotiate the types of relationships that we're choosing to have in our daily lives.
Okay, now can we talk about sex?
All right, let's go.
So I would like to hear first from you, your personal story. What led you? What shaped you to become what you are today and to do the work that you're doing in the world? Because it's a path that you chose, and I'm very curious about why you chose this path specifically.
Well, it wasn't something that I talked to my career guidance counselors about at school, that's for sure. I wanted to be a ninja when I was growing up. But it's one of those things that's been intuitively unfolding. And often I'll look back and go, wow, that's amazing to me. But what I've always done is trusted my intuition. My intuition is the only God. If my intuition says yes, I say yes. If it says no, I say yes to the no. And through that,
so you know, since childhood, you sensed your intuition. You knew what is, your next step. It's been guiding you. You were aware of it because I discovered it on the age of 40. I didn't know I have intuition at all.
Well, my intuition doesn't see very far into the future. My intuition is very much related to now, and it's short term. So imagine driving down a country road in your car and you have your headlights on, and then you turn your high beam on and it lets you see a little bit further. That's my intuition, the high beam on the car in a country road. So I'm very much focused on being, as present time focused as possible, and allowing the magic of intuition to gently guide us, and living in a cloud of unknowing, to quote Thomas Merton, because in that state of unknowingness, allowing our intuition to guide us step by step, then something starts to unfold that the mind often.
So you were born in Australia.
Yes.
And you love to be in nature. This I heard. What more can you tell me about yourself and your story?
Well, I was a heavy vehicle electrician for many years, and that was a very important period. That was a very important period of my life. I did a lot of learning there before I got into what I'm doing nowadays. I had a very profound experience at the age of 22.
Can you say something about it?
Sure, it was actually a very low point in my life, and as a result of that low point in my life, I had what some people would call some type of spiritual experience, and that opened me up to a whole level of understanding about life that I didn't have before. I was actually about to commit suicide, and as I went to pull the trigger, I had a profound awakening, and I went into a full body energy orgasm that lasted for about 2 weeks. And in that
wait a minute, you can't say it and just move on. What do you mean? How did it happen?
How did what happen?
The orgasm. What, did you get a sign? Did you get a sound from God? What happened there?
As I said, I was about to end my life at the time. I was 22. It was a very long time ago. And instead of ending my life, I went into a deep state of peace. And I went to sleep for a couple of days. And when I woke up, I was in a full body energy orgasm that lasted for about 2 weeks. It was like a high level bliss state.
Wow.
At that time, I didn't sleep very much, and I was, for want of a better description, downloading a lot of information about my life, about the world, about consciousness, about everything. And after that 2-week experience, and at the time I had no idea what was going on, because I was a heavy vehicle electrician working in a factory with hundreds of men, and I was also getting up to a lot of trouble at the time. I was a very rebellious teenager and young man. And so after this 2 weeks, this experience left me, my emotional body came back because I had a lot of unresolved issues. But something had profoundly changed, and that's when I dramatically started to change my life. And I was very fortunate to meet some very beautiful people that mentored me and mentored me. One of them was a woman for a couple of years.
It was when you were 22 living in Australia. So the mentors were Australian.
Well, one of them was Scottish and one of them was Australian. And I remember saying to him when I first started hanging out with him, and I said, I've got to leave this factory. I can't keep on working here anymore. I can't be happy here. I can't be spiritual here. And Robert said to me, Sonny, you can't leave until you are happy. You can't leave that place until you can be spiritual there. And so I stayed there for 5 years with the commitment of doing that job 100% as a way to create total acceptance about me being there, and also repairing the relationships that I damaged over the years in that factory. And that took about 5 years. And then I'll never forget the day that I unconditionally accepted my experience of working in that factory. And I totally transformed my experience there. And I went into this full body energy orgasmic state for a couple of days again. And then within a couple of months, I met an amazing being in Australia who teaches a type of Hawaiian massage and personal development courses. And I very quickly became her apprentice for 3.5 years. And so I left the factory and I became her apprentice. And that was my beginnings of learning about body work and energy healing and about all of the things that I do today.
Something that you said is drawn my attention, that you needed to be 5 more years in a place that you wanted to live, that wasn't good for you. And I think of life that sometimes we are very, we rush from one thing to another. If we're not happy in this relationship, we will leave it and go try another one. And if we're not happy with this job, we will leave it and go try another one. I think this hectic way that we are used to think and live, and you're saying something completely different. Even if it's not good for you, stay there and work on yourself until you resolve your issues with this and accept the place that you are. So this is a big tip for people who want to change their life, who want to evolve, who want to, do something else with their life, not to run away, but to stay and deal with it.
Very often, a lot of the time, it's about moving into those uncomfortable places and learning how to get comfortable. And so that, even though mentally I didn't want to be in that place, even for years after I had that conversation with Robert, I knew intuitively that it was important for me to be there. There was a lot of lessons that I was getting from that experience. So I stuck with that. I kept on going through it. I kept on exploring, how can I be in my maximum potential in this experience? How can I live from a place of love in this environment where there is no love? Or very little love, I should say. That's going a bit extreme.
Okay.
Once I got to that place, I didn't need to be there anymore, and life literally picked me up and moved me into a place of love. And I was so fortunate to have been apprenticed to one of the most amazing facilitators I've ever met in my life. Still to this date, I've met a lot around the world in the last 20-odd years.
So you were there, and this was the time that you got in also information about the work that you're doing today, the full body orgasm, this disarming,
yes.
The armoring. It was that period that you got it?
That's been an evolution over the last 17 years, developing the tantric body de-armoring. I've been very fortunate once again to have amazing people come into my life and share their amazing wisdom and knowledge with me. And over the years, I've just accumulated lots of things and put them together. And the tantric body de-armoring especially is something that is uniquely what I've been developing. And it's designed to support people to release what I call their emotional and sexual holding patterns that lower their vibrational frequency and make it difficult for them to raise, so that they are able to raise their vibrational frequency and start to use their sexual energy as a fuel for living and as a platform for accessing higher levels of consciousness within our bodies.
And this section is very intriguing to me. I know that in ancient traditions like the Inca and in the mystery schools all over the world, they are talking about the sexual energy that can bring your frequency higher and higher and higher. And but in the Western society, we are when we are taught about our sexuality, if we're taught about our sexuality, usually as children we are taught to hide it, to be ashamed of it, to not to show it on. So, and you say that it's like an armor that we put on us, all these beliefs and all this restrictions and all the thoughts that something is wrong with us. So we have to disarm ourselves.
Yeah, that's a concept or a term that was developed by Wilhelm Reich in the early 1900s. Quite an amazing man who developed a lot of concepts around the idea of using our sexual energy as a form of healing. And so I named tantric body de-armoring in his honor. And so exactly, that's what happens in early childhood, or at the beginnings of early childhood. We start to get conditioned into our culture, and a part of that cultural conditioning is learning how to suppress our sexual energy. And as we grow older and older and older, this becomes denser and denser into our bodies. And we end up in a situation as adults where we have lost our natural ability to learn how to cultivate and circulate our sexual energy in a way that opens us up to higher levels of experience, higher levels of consciousness, and to be able to use bliss states for healing.
So can you talk about a little bit about the process, how it's happening, how we are? I know we can't do or show any here in the show something, but if you can, walk us through like a process of how is it that we release even one thing, even one thought or one belief that is limiting us and that is keeping us dense.
Okay, well, a lot of people hold either guilt or shame around pleasure or around parts of their body. So you can do something around doing a stream of consciousness writing, where every night, just before you go to bed, you ask your higher self to give you an answer to heal the shame about your sexual pleasure. And then you have a notepad and pen beside your bed. And as soon as you wake up, before you get out of bed, before you talk to anybody, just get the pen and paper and just start writing without thinking. If you don't know what to write, just write, I don't know what to write, I don't know what to write, until something starts coming out. Now, if you do that for several days at least, every morning, then what will happen is you will start to get messages in your dreams and in your sleep that you'll be able to write out, and you'll start to see things about why you're holding on to irrational shame about something that's so natural to you, a sexual pleasure. And then you'll be able to develop a solution for that particular issue that you have around your sexuality.
And when you do in your workshop, I know you do retreats for weeks or 1 week, 10 days. I don't know how much does it last. So it's not something that is we can, release overnight. It's something that takes time, in your experience?
Well, if we've been developing certain types of belief systems and holding patterns in our body around our sexuality, then yeah, it may take a little bit of time. I just finished running a 9-day retreat in the Netherlands where we were a group of people and we lived together. We did the retreat every day for 9 days, and it was a beautiful experience. And in that type of time frame, we really have an ability to explore what these physical and emotional holding patterns are, what caused them, and how can we release these from our bodies. So for some people, it may be just having one retreat experience is enough to release the guilt and shame or their difficulties or their sexual problems that they're having. And for other people, it might be the beginning of a journey that might need to last for a little while. I know that for me personally, my sexual healing was something that happened over an extended period of time. I was carrying a lot, so I needed to let go of a lot. But everyone is quite unique with regards to what they need to do.
So let's talk about this sexual healing. You know, when I wrote in my newsletter that I'm going to interview you and we're going to talk about how we can heal ourselves through sexual energy, through healing our sexual entity, I don't know how to call it. You know, people wrote me back, what's going on with you? You know, the comments were like people themselves, when you talk about these issues, they go to humor or to ridicule or do something like in their minds. It's hard for people to talk about it. So how do you release this kind of responses that you get, the automatic responses that you get?
Most people, the reason why most people find it difficult to talk about sexuality is because we don't feel safe to talk about it. Because most or a lot of our experiences in the past and when we were growing up had a fogginess of shame or guilt, embarrassment, uncomfortability, risk of being humiliated. So all of these fears are around the topic of sexuality. So once we're able to create a safe space, then in my experience, most people want to talk about sex. They want to share their experiences, positive and negative, about their sexuality. They want to be open about it because in my belief is that we're not actually human beings, we're sexual beings.
Okay.
Nature. It takes sex to make us. It's scientifically proven that infants in the womb self-pleasure, not just little boys, but little girls as well. They've done scientific studies about infants, and little girls 3 to 4 months after birth can self-pleasure to orgasm. On average, little boys, it's 4 to 5 months after birth. Now, most children will explore their bodies and their sexuality in early childhood with themselves. And in a healthy environment, they'll just naturally grow out of that and start to become more private with their experiences as they get older. Now, most people are then sexual throughout their whole lives, even past their puberty period. A friend of mine in Australia supports people to die consciously. Her name is Zenith Vargo, and she's written a book called The Intimacy of Death and Dying. And she says that when people die consciously, she believes that they die in an orgasmic experience. So we come into this world through orgasm, and if we die consciously, we leave it. So we're not human beings, we're sexual beings. Many cultures has been to disconnect us from our sexual energy. This is why most adults are shallow breathers around the world nowadays. It's one of the ways that children learn to suppress their sexual energy. If you go to any kind of Tantra course, one of the first things the teacher will teach you is to start breathing from your belly again. Because most of us are breathing from up here, because this is how we disconnect from our lower level chakras. It's how we disconnect from moving our sexual energy up into the higher centers of our body. So this is another reason why a lot of the sexuality in our society is only focused on entertainment or procreation, and then of course emotional intimacy, because we're cut off from here. But through tantric practices, through awareness of self and healing these unresolved wounds from the past, we can learn how to bring our sexual energy up into the higher levels of consciousness within our bodies. And
we can do it with ourselves. It's not something that we have to do it with someone else.
Sacred union begins within self. Osho, a mystic from India, talks about it's only how when the feminine and masculine are integrated that a Buddha can be born.
Yeah.
I don't think he was talking about in some romantic Hollywood type movie with a man and a woman falling in love instantly and living happily ever after. I think what he's talking about is the integration of these energies within us. So we can access these higher levels of consciousness within our bodies. and also to activate parts of our brains that have become dormant over time. Scientists tell us that we're only using 7 to 10% of our brain, and they talk like that's natural. Now, I don't believe that's natural. It may be normal and common, but I don't believe that's natural. But if we're living a life where day in, day out, we go to work every day, we go home, we watch some television, eat dinner, and then go to sleep, and then we have the weekend off because we've been weakened. When we're living like that, we don't need to use all of our capacity. And I believe this is one of the main purposes of our sexual energy and why tantric practices were developed as a way to reawaken these parts of our brains that have become dormant so that we can become more intelligent, that we can start using a more expansive state of consciousness to live in our daily lives.
Tell me, and there is, we talk about the sexual energy of a female and a male, that they're both inside us, either if we're a woman or a man.
Yeah.
But you know, in life, women and men, they have differences. How do you see the differences between the different energies of men and women?
In many countries I go to, we call men and women the opposite sex, but I call us the similar sex. Now,
yeah, they say that the men are from Mars and women are from Venus, right?
When the actual truth is, we're all from Earth. We really need to start seeing it that way because we've been conditioned to look for the differences between women and men. And superficially, there are differences that are very easy for our mind to see. Now, once you get enough information about what the truth is, you very quickly start to realize that the differences are superficial and that underneath all of that, there are actually more similarities. We're more alike than we are different. So when I use the terms female and male, all I'm talking about is what genitals you have. You're a female because you have a clitoris, I'm a male because I have a penis. Now that has nothing to do with long hair and short hair, blue or pink, trucks or dolls, or anything like that. Those things have to do with gender, being a woman or a man. Now, being a female doesn't necessarily make you a woman, and being a man doesn't necessarily, being a male doesn't necessarily make you a man. Those things are conditioned into us from the moment that we are born. Now, they're so ingrained in our psyches that most people think there's no difference between gender and sex, but there's a world of difference between gender and sex. Now, feminine and masculine are qualities, vibrational qualities, behaviors that are in all of us. Yet once again, through gender, we've been taught to associate femininity with being a woman, and
yes,
masculinity with being a man, and man with being a male. Now, everywhere I go around the world, I do little scientific experiments, and I ask groups on courses to say, give me some words to describe the feminine, give me some words to describe the masculine. And most of the time I get words for the feminine like loving, caring, intuitive, open, tender, beautiful words like that.
Yeah.
And everyone's
compassionate.
Sorry?
Compassionate,
all those things. And then I say, give me some words to describe the masculine. And the words are not as nice, unfortunately. Logic, goal-orientated, dominating, present, competitive, all those kinds of things. Now, then I ask the group, I'll ask all of the human beings in the group with clitorises to tell me, have you ever been logical? Have you ever been competitive? Have you ever been aggressive? Have you ever been controlling and dominating? And just about every human with a clitoris puts up their hand and says yes.
I love how you say every woman with the clitoris says yes.
So every human with a penis, I say, have you ever been loving, caring, tender, intuitive? And most of them put up their hand and say, yes, of course we have. So that proves that it's just nonsensical to associate feminine behaviors with women and masculine behaviors with men, because we all have these qualities within us. and in our daily lives are constantly behaving out of these qualities. So developing a practice where we're consciously integrating the feminine and masculine qualities within ourselves is something that I believe is essential. Once again, if we're going to be able to evolve to the next level of consciousness as a species, or as Osho said, so that a Buddha can be born. Now, the other issue that I see happening in
so what you're saying that we should recognize both the energies inside us and then know how to balance and bring about what energy we want at the moment, if we need more masculine or more feminine.
Exactly. I wouldn't use the word balance, because to me it's not about balancing the feminine and masculine, because we're constantly in a state of flux. We're constantly responding to what is happening in each moment. So the feminine and masculine is a spectrum. And in one moment, I may be more in my feminine, but I'm still connected to my masculine. In the next moment, I'm in my masculine more, but I'm still connected to my feminine. There's a dance that's happening. It's an integrative dance of the feminine and masculine. And it's consciously being in that state in each moment that's essential. But here's the thing. One of the other things that I find when I do that scientific experiment is most people give me the concept of the feminine, which is very positive focused and high energy. I call it the mature feminine. But most people give me words to describe the masculine, which are low vibration. I call that the immature masculine. Unfortunately, in many cultures nowadays, we don't have a positive concept for the masculine. We don't have a mature masculine concept. Now, this is a problem, because that means that we're projecting these cultural stories about masculinity onto little boys. And we wonder why we're living in cultures of men that are very goal-orientated or very, very soft and broken. And
I also hear that the history of mankind, you know, in the last decades, it's going through a phase of male dominance to female dominance. Do you also feel it? I mean, worldwide, universally.
I'm not really sure about that. But what I know is important is that for all individuals, we need to consciously start to integrate the mature feminine and the mature masculine within self. Because if we're developing the high vibrational qualities of the feminine, love, compassion, intuition, empathy, tenderness, all of those things, using our sexual energy to create bliss states for healing, for developing deeper levels of intimacy in our relationships. If we're combining that with developing the mature masculine presence, awareness, clarity, the ability to speak and communicate clearly and set healthy boundaries in any situation, to be great-hearted with our love, when we combine those two alchemically, that will raise an individual's vibrational frequency. And this, I believe, needs to be the focus for all of us. And we need to move away from this concept of men and women being different, because that's just lowering everyone's vibrational frequency and making it impossible for any of us to integrate these qualities within ourselves, because we're constantly associating them with other people. Now, the other thing that I believe happens when we confuse gender and sex and start putting a gender role on you to be a woman and for me to be a man, is I believe that's an underlying basis of codependency in a lot of people's relationships. Because if I'm supposed to act like a man, it means I have to develop certain qualities, but I also have to avoid other qualities. And same do you. And what that means is then I need you to do things that I can't do for myself, and vice versa. Even though I could develop the skills, I haven't. So it doesn't feel like I can anymore. We have these social stories that support this belief by associating with our sex and saying, well, you can't do that because you're a male, and you can't do that because you're a female. An example is, I hear a lot around the world, women can't read maps and men can't multitask. Now, of course, this is nonsensical. Of course women can read maps if they're taught, the same as men that can read maps when they're taught. And of course men can multitask. Men are multitasking all of the time as much as women are. But we've created these social stories as a way to try and create separation. Now, if we want to have the types of loving, caring, intimate, open, honest, vulnerable, sexual relationships that I know everybody is wanting to have, I don't believe we can access that experience whilst maintaining antiquated concept of gender and what it is to be a male or a female on this planet.
Okay, so I want to return to the sex, to the full body orgasm. I saw this video that you sent me of a woman that was lying on a bed, and you were like not touching her, but putting your arms, I don't know, 10, 15 centimeters over, and she was having this orgasm for about 20 or 30 minutes.
Uh-huh.
This is what you call full body orgasm? What are you doing there? And is everybody can have this experience? What does it take to have this experience?
One of the things that's important for us to realize is that at a fundamental level, all of us are energy. Quantum science shows that the physical world is actually more of an illusion, and the energy world, is
like the Matrix,
Exactly. So that's also the same with our bodies. At a fundamental level, we are just a vibrational frequency. Now, what I've come to realize is that our orgasm is also just a vibrational frequency. Now, when you know this, when you have experienced the vibration of your orgasm and on an energetic level, it means that you can start to play with it then. Because here's the thing, the cells that make up your genitals are the same cells that make up the rest of your body. And those cells are made up of energy. They are just a vibrational frequency.
Okay.
So we can start to play with that. And if we can recreate the vibrational frequency of orgasm that most of us have become accustomed to doing in our genital area, in any part of our body, we can have an orgasm. So we can have eye orgasms.
We can rub our nose and have an orgasm.
Ear, nose orgasms. Body orgasms. It's just about...
So what? It's about practice? How do you reach this level that you can, you can do this and have an orgasm?
Well, the first thing is we need to let go of the holding patterns that are lowering our vibrational frequency. Because if we want to have full body energetic orgasm experiences, we need to be at a high vibrational frequency. Now, there's a book written by David Hawkins called Power versus Force.
Yes.
It measures people's vibrational frequencies. And as you imagine, if you're in emotional states like jealousy, fear, anger, shame, guilt, your vibrational frequency is very low. And then as you move into happiness, love, bliss, orgasm, etc., your vibrational frequency increases. So the same concept is applying to what I'm talking about. Our holding patterns lower our vibration, and energy orgasm is high vibration, which is why I developed the Tantric body de-armoring and why I'm coming to Israel at the end of November to run a retreat, is to support people to let go of the physical tension in the body and the unresolved emotional issues that keep us held in these lower vibrational patterns of experience. Once someone can let go of the holding pattern, their vibrational frequency naturally increases, and they start to develop a sensitivity to their energy body consciousness that they didn't have before. Then when you give them some education about the truth about our sexuality and what it can be used for, people go into natural states of being. And in those natural states of being, high vibrational full body energetic orgasms are actually quite simple.
So can you, the show is called Practical Inspiration. So I'm looking for a little bit the practical until we go to your retreat on the end of November and the beginning of December. Is there something that we can consciously do or be, or I don't know, you name it, that we can raise a level of vibration. I know you can pray, you can meditate, you can do all this kind of stuff, but relating to the sexual energy, I mean.
Sure. So firstly, we need to realize that our sexual energy is for more than just intimacy, procreation, and pleasure and entertainment and getting to sleep at night. Once you realize that there's something more expansive about our sexual energy, then we can start to explore that as an experience. Now, I believe our self-pleasuring is one of the gateways and one of the practices we can use as a gateway to raising our vibrational frequency. Okay? So we need to turn our self-pleasuring practices into spiritual practices. Annie Sprinkles, a sex educator in America, calls it a medibation, combining masturbation and meditation.
Oh my God, I have to learn it.
Yeah, that's, isn't it? See, the word masturbation comes from two Latin words, manu and stupation, which in English means manual stupidity. I don't know that the word means that, but the guilt and shame is still following that word around, without a doubt. So we need to transcend our way of thinking about our bodies, our sexuality, and things like masturbation into self-loving practices that are designed to raise our vibrational frequency. So in this medibation, what people can focus on is, rather than chasing an orgasm, which very often will disperse our vibrational frequency or lower our vibrational frequency, we use our medibation experience as a way to raise our energy, as a meditation. So as you're self-pleasuring and building your sexual energy, you're also breathing and imagining that the sexual energy is moving up your spine and coming around and down the front of your body and doing a circuit around your body. Okay. Now, if you can start to do that as a spiritual practice, you've automatically begun to raise your vibrational frequency. And one of the reasons why I'm suggesting not using this as a way to orgasm or for men to ejaculate is because we need to learn we need to retrain our bodies and our nervous systems to be able to hold large amounts of pleasure. Most of us are not very good at holding pleasure in our bodies. I know that sounds strange because we want to consciously, but if you really think about it, our sexual experiences don't go for a long time. And in my
most of the time, and after 25 years, you just want to sleep after.
That's right. So we need to train our bodies to be able to handle these full body energetic orgasm states that can go for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, where we're riding an orgasmic wave that's nourishing every cell in our body. It's not making us want to go to sleep. It's making us want to live to our maximum potential.
And we're talking now on self-indulgence, not when you do it with someone.
So you can definitely do that with someone else, create a tantric sacred union experience. But I believe fundamentally we need to learn how to do this with ourselves first. Because then, once we know how to do this within our own bodies, then we're sharing it with the person that we're with. We're not dependent on them for it. Then our sacred union experiences with other people become shared experiences where we're supporting each other. And that's very powerful, where you have two conscious sexual beings who are empowered within themselves, sharing an experience. That's then going to create a magic where we're raising both of our vibrations together. And that's what I really believe our sexual energy is for. A spiritual platform for accessing higher levels of consciousness within our bodies and learning how to use bliss states for healing our bodies.
So basically what you're saying is when we are able to do that, to contain the sexual energy, to keep it in us, not to look for the ejaculation or the orgasm in the woman, we are raising our level of vibration, and we go to a higher dimension.
It becomes a fuel for living. in our daily lives. Most of us are using adrenaline and mental willpower as a way to get out of bed and to push ourselves to get things done during the day. What about if we can learn how to cultivate our sexual energy in a way that it becomes our fuel for living? It becomes our motivation in daily lives. It becomes a creative life force energy. Now, when someone is in that state, they're actually in an altered state of consciousness where they're vibrating at a different frequency and they're seeing things in a very different way. And their receptivity starts to awaken. So rather than needing to use force to make things happen, we creatively start to magnetize experiences into our life that are for our highest good. I want to call it that. So it's a fuel for living in our daily lives.
Maybe that's why, you know, I heard, I wasn't aware, but I understand that here in Israel and all over the world, there is an awakening in this field of sexual orgasms and of sexual healing throughout the world. Do you sense it also?
Yeah, Tantra is the new yoga, that's for sure. People are wanting more from their relationships. People are wanting more from their daily experiences. Now, I don't believe that Tantra has all the answers. I don't believe that anything has all of the answers. And I also want to make it clear that I don't believe that Tantra is for everybody.
Yeah, you know, because there are spiritual practices that, you know, like monks, or I don't know, that they go the other way that you're going. They say that we don't have sex. We are
right. We're all here having our own experience. But what I do see is that there are a lot of people out there that are wanting something more expansive, something more powerful, something that's going to enrich their relationships and their daily lives in a way that they haven't been able to figure out how to do yet. And using Tantra in the way that I'm talking about for these people is a key to open up that gateway to a new experience.
And tell me, also, when there are couples that are men and women that, you know, or woman and woman or man and man that are together for 20, 25 years and, you know, their sex has become a little low and less frequent than before, do you think that that if they have to go, like if they want to improve their intimacy and their sex life, that they can go together, or even if one of them does it, they can improve their sex together? You understand what I'm asking?
Yeah, I understand what you're asking, and I get this question asked a lot, and it's not a black and white question because every relationship dynamic is quite unique. Now, for some people, it can be extremely beneficial even if one of them comes to a tantric event, because they're going to bring back a whole new wealth of information and a whole new wealth of experience to share with their partner. So that can be enough just to create a new dynamic in their relationship. For other couples, they decide to come together, and in those experiences, it can be more powerful because they're both having a shared experience that they can take away together. Now, for a lot of couples that you're talking about, Tantra is certainly a beautiful way to revitalize their sex life, but also the way that they're relating with
communicating, yeah.
Absolutely, because Tantra isn't just about sex. It's about sexuality.
Yeah.
Our sexuality encompasses everything to do with our relationships. How we look at each other, how we think about each other, how we feel about each other, how we communicate to each other, understanding gender and how that's creating codependencies, lowering our vibration. Tantra gives us the opportunity to look at all of these aspects of relationship and sexuality and start to go, well, how can I transform this into something that is higher, something that is more expansive and more from a place of love?
Yeah, and use it also as a way to evolve, to develop.
Absolutely. That's a personal experience as well as supporting the relationship experience.
Yeah. So we have a few more minutes. I would like to ask you, you're coming to Israel, as we said, and you're having, can you say a little bit about what is the courses, what retreats you're going to have here, so people that are here and then will look at the video could see, could know?
Sure. I'll be running an expanding women's sexuality seminar and expanding men's sexuality seminar. They're 4-hour events where I go in depth into a lot of the issues that are affecting people around the world with regards to women's sexuality, men's sexuality. And I talk a lot about issues that most people aren't aware of. Now,
so it's a lot about educating people because they are not aware, as you say.
Yeah. They think, oh my God, how can you talk about women or men's sexuality for 4 hours? Believe me, I could talk for weeks about it. So I've jam-packed so much information into these 4-hour seminars. And people, it's a lot of fascinating stuff. I also have a master's degree in clinical sexology. So I bring a lot of health science into those particular seminars based on my completing that master's degree. So I'll also be doing a cacao orgastic breath dance meditation, which is a mouthful, I know. But
that sounds great.
Yes, we'll be drinking raw cacao paste and doing a lot of dancing because I love dancing. And we're going to be releasing some of the tension in our bodies and in our emotional bodies. And then we're going to be learning a type of sensual breathing that people can then take home and use as a part of their spiritual practice for raising their vibration and sexual energy. I just want to make clear it's a fully clothed and non-sexual dance, even though it sounds like it might be an orgy or something. It's not like that. It's a personal practice that you can learn yourself, and it's 4 hours as well, and it's a lot of fun.
Okay.
And then I'm going to the Cosmic Lovers Festival, which is I can't remember the name of the venue that it's going to be at.
I know. We can have a link afterwards. I could put a link for it.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to seeing Duty, who's created the Cosmic Lovers Festival again, and I'm going to be the main guest speaker at that festival. I'm going to be doing some fun stuff with energy orgasm and things like that. That's a 3 or 4 day festival. And then I'm running a 5-day tantric body de-armoring level 1 retreat that anybody can come to. Although there are some questions that the organizers will talk to people about to make sure that they're ready for something like that. As I said, not everyone's ready for Tantra. Some people need to go and do lots of other types of healing before they come to a tantric event. Tantra isn't a simple path. And I don't believe it's for people that are in the early stages of healing from sexual abuse or sexual trauma. Those people need to go and do...
but not most of the people have these restrictions and they weren't abused or something like that sexually. They can only, hear from their mother,
right.
You look like a whore, even if you're 5 years old.
Yeah. So the organizer will talk to people that want to do the events and just make sure that it's right for them and that it's going to, be beneficial for them to come to the retreat. And then after that, we're running a tantric full body energy orgasm course where people learn how to give the sessions that you talked about in the video. And that's also high vibration, fun course. And all of the events will be doing lots of dancing and breathing.
And it's all with clothes on.
The Tantric Body De-Armoring Retreat and the Tantric Full Body Energy Orgasm course, they're clothes optional. I want to make it very clear that no one on my events has to do anything. Everybody is supported to say no to anybody on the retreat, including me. So everyone decides how much stuff.
I have a friend who was in one of your retreats, and he said they promised me that it's clothes on, but after 5 minutes, everybody was naked.
I think that whoever that was would have been promised that it was clothes on. We would never say that. We always say that it's clothes optional, and everybody has the choice. So some people when they're receiving a session, they may be without clothes, but other people may be fully clothed.
Yeah. Okay.
What I like to do is create events where wherever you're at, you can attend the event. So people's involvement is determined by them, and there's no peer group pressure allowed on any of my events. And I like to create an environment where we celebrate people's no's. Because a lot of us were shamed or pressured in our sexual experiences in the past. So for some people, just the experience of having their no honored and supported is the healing that they need to experience in the events. So some people like to jump into the deep end of the pool on a Tantra course, and that's great. Other people like to hang out in the shallow end of the pool, take their time and be more of an observer rather than, you know, going full on. And also, I definitely support both. It's really, really important.
So we're in a last minute, Andrew. So I want to thank you very much for sharing all this information and your heart with us. And we're looking forward to see you here and to experience your workshops and courses here in Israel. And namaste, God bless you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Orly. It was really lovely to share with you. I hope you got something from our little chat. Yeah, it'd be nice to meet you when I'm in Tel Aviv.
Yeah, for sure. We will meet for sure.
Great.
So thank you very much. Bye-bye.